Okay, so we're at the stage now of replacing the tops on our tables. Now, on further investigation, the more and more I get into restoring these pieces of furniture, I'm finding out actually they're not quite as good as I first thought. But still, the nice pieces of furniture, and I'll explain what I'm talking about. Right, so I have the two tops here. Let's move that one to the side and look at this one here. This one, before I put the hinges back on and that locking plate here, you can see the state of it. It's in a bit of a mess. So I'm going to colour fad this area here and just going over the top of what remains. I'm not going to strip it off. I'm just going to revive and just go over the top. So this is the bit that's seen as you open the lid. I'll do it on both of them and then we'll look at going on to the next stage. So I've just gone over that with a few colour fads, quite strong colour fads, just to even up that mess that was there. Okay, so I fixed the hinges on just with one single screw at the moment because I need to make sure that it lines up. One of the things I was saying earlier on about I'm not convinced that these are exactly right. I mean, if you look at these hinges that I put on here, they're not recessed in here. They've not been fitted correctly by a Georgian cabinet maker. So there's something not right going on here. Although it's a high quality piece, I think this has all been made up at a later date by a cabinet maker of questionable skill. Anyhow, let's line it up here and I'll show you another reason why I think it's gone a bit wrong. So I'm going to place the lid back on to where the hinges should be, which is fine. But maybe if Ian comes in close, come and have a look at this. Can you see, maybe have a look at this one here. Look at the gap underneath the hinge here. It's huge. So they've been messed around with. This has been messed around with an awful lot in the past, which is nothing unusual for antiques, but this is particularly bodgy. So I'm going to have to replace or infill this area where this hinge has been cut out so deeply from before. But I need to find some really nice quality wood to blend it in. So let's go on the hunt for some wood. Right, Ian, if you come in and have a look here, this is where I keep a lot of the veneers of old pieces of furniture that we use for repairs. So in here, not that drawer, well, have a look. See, these are old finials, carvings. There's just lots of stuff. There's more here. All odds and sods, parts of a bracket foot. Now, this is where we have some of the veneers. So here's a piece of rosewood veneer. That must be rosewood veneer bits and pieces, yeah. And this is what we use to repair furniture with, using old veneers, because it's a much better way of doing it. That's mahogany. Yeah, there's some new mahogany there, but there's a whole bag full of bits and pieces in there. You can see in there. Oh yeah, some cross banding. Okay. So I don't know if you can see that now, the sun has just gone in, but that's a piece of mahogany, but it's got a polished face. Can you see that? It's got a finished face on it. So if I cut this down to size, I've got a ready finished face that I can lay in to those hinges. So if I trim this up on the bandsaw to the right size, it will save time colouring and polishing new wood. Right. To the bandsaw. Okay, so we're at the final stages of this sort of epic restoration. I've got the two tables together. I'm going to now French polish them, and that final stages of finishing. So we're sort of lifting that finish up, and then after that, then we'll wax polish them. But let's start. Okay, we're on to the final stages of the restoration, and I need to do a little bit of metal work. I need to do some brass brazing because there's a metal pin that's missing from both of these tables, and the only way I can see to do it is by making them up. So that's the next section. I'll start brazing. So as you can see, I'm set up to make our own brass locking pin. Now there's only one way I can see of doing this, and that's by using a brass pommel from a drawer front, a period one, and then soldering in a brass rod into it. So I've selected some pommels. Here's one, and this brass rod. Now I need to clean them up to make a good connection, to make a good weld. Now I'm going to mix some flux just to the consistency of like a thick double cream, just with water and maybe a very small drop of washing up liquid detergent in there just to sort of ease the flow. So I've got a 1.5mm silver brazing rod, some gas. I'm going to get this to the point where it's glowing red. It's just about the right point. And then I'm going to just touch the surface with the silver solder so it flows into that gap. Now I'm going to do this quite a bit because there's quite a gap around the brass rod and the pummel. Anyhow, so let's get going. I think we're there. I think it looks, although you might not be able to see it yet, but there is the markings or the makings of a pin there. It's slightly on an angle, but adds character. So we now have 2 locking pins. Near enough. I think it's pretty good. It look antique, but I think it looked quite nice. Right, on to the next stage. Okay, so we're at the final stage of our restoration. The crowning glory, the wax polishing. Now you've just watched me French polishing these pair of beautiful tables. Now we've left them for about 2 to 3 days in a really warm room. I would actually ideally like to leave them for maybe a couple of weeks, but I really want to get them ready for our customer. And the reason I want to leave them for a few days longer is so that polish really dries a lot harder before wax polishing them. But like I said, I put them in a nice warm room and I've started wax polishing them already. This one here to your right, I've already applied the wax polish. I haven't buffed it and I've used our antique gold. You can see it's quite matte looking. This one's got the reflection. This one's a lot duller. And that's what you would like to see when you're wax polishing. When you're applying wax, to know that you've got all over the surface, that you've hit every area. It should go to a matte finish, really. Applied sparingly, left for 20 to 30 minutes, and then you buff it back up to a sheen. You can see that happening. And I've used antique gold, our antique gold, as opposed to our rose gold, which has got the warm nutty coloured, and the pure gold, which is a neutral polish, completely clear. The reason I've gone for antique gold, these are antiques. I want to sort of bring them down, tone them down. I don't want that fresh blinginess to the French polish. I don't want that reflective new French polish look. I want to tone it down. So using the soft wire wool antique gold will add that richness of antiques that we really like. And I will wax polish this one now the same, and then we'll buff them. So let's get on to this final stage, this crowning glory. So to apply the wax, we're going to use 4-0 fine wire wool. This is oil-free wire wool. You can find this on our website. And I can already hear people saying, wow, you use wire wool. It's that soft. It's as soft as cotton wool, it really is. Now, antique restorers and French polishers have been using soft wire wool to apply wax for decades. It really is the best way to transfer the wax to the surface evenly and at the same time just gently cleaning the surface. You wouldn't necessarily use a wire wool. The only times you wouldn't necessarily use it is if you were doing wax polishing a really highly glossy surface. And in which case, don't use a wax polish at all. You just don't need it. A highly glossy surface won't need a paste wax like this. It more likely need a car polish or something like that. Don't use a paste wax and don't use wire wool. But that's the only circumstance, and that doesn't happen. Who polishes wax paste polish on a really high glossy but piano finish? It doesn't happen. So you're fine. Use the wire wool, the soft wire wool. It's brilliant. Make a pad, shape it to your hand. Open up your jar of polish or tin and then charge it. So work the surface of the wax in the jar or in the tin, and it will melt the surface area and charge the wire wool. You can see it there. Our wax polishes are quite hard, so they do take a little bit of work, especially this time of year when it's a bit cold. But there you are, it's charged on there, it's a perfect amount. Now I'm going to turn this to this side because I'm right-handed, not left-handed, and I can't do that. I'm going to work with the grain. I'm going to start, it doesn't matter really too much where I start, I'm going to work my way across. I'm not going to dab this on. I think in our early videos when we started doing this, we dabbed it. I think actually don't dab, just in case you might leave a mark on the surface, which might be hard to sort of buff away. So just apply it with the grain, sparingly, with a little pressure. It's a really easy thing to do. Evenly distribute the wax over the surface. There we go, it's starting to dry. Now it's important to leave it for 20 to 30 minutes. You can leave it a little bit longer. I mean, it's not an exact science, but don't apply wax polish to a piece like this or anything and then leave it for days or overnight, because it will dry hard and then it'd be really hard to buff. Not impossible, but hard. So just do small bite-sized pieces at a time. This table, I'm going to wax polish the whole thing and then come back and buff it. If you're doing a chest of drawers maybe do the side of a chest of drawers or two sides or the top and the side, and then come back and buff and then finish it off, and maybe do the drawers separately. Break it down to bite-sized pieces. It makes it a lot easier for yourself. This process I'm here doing with the wire wool, I am putting a little extra pressure in because I'm also wanting to dull the surface. So I want to take off that shine that I was talking about a second ago. So I just carry on applying the wax. And you can see I'm really not using very much because it's quite hard. It's on the wire wool, but this wax polish will go quite some way. Around about 10 to 12 square meters on a surface like this. Less if you had a rough, dry surface. Right, I think I'm nearly there. It's a bit difficult because I've got big studio lights glaring down in my face. Everything I'm looking at is in shadow, so I'm sort of doing it by feel. But I think I've waxed everywhere. Right, let's drop this down on the floor and I'll wax the top, and then we'll leave it for 20-30 minutes, and then we'll do the buffing. Oh, one other thing, just thought. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Please hit the subscribe button down in the right-hand corner of the screen, I think. And once you've done that, hit the notification bell and you'll be notified every time we upload a new video to our YouTube channel. This is our open weave pure cotton buffing cloth. Let me show you what I'm talking about there. You can see that the open weave here. Now this allows the cotton cloth to buff the wax to a sheen without generating too much heat. And that's what you don't want. Too much heat being generated when you're buffing a surface, because it will make streaks and marks and melts the wax. We don't want that. That's why we use this open weave buffing cloth. It's not lint free. There are, if you shake it, there is going to be a little bit of lint, but you can't overlock it or hem it. You can't wash it either. So don't try, if you're using this, just use it for as long as you possibly can. If you're using it right, it should last quite a long time because very little wax will come off the surface. You get a small amount that will come off and it just changed the face of your buffing cloth. There's quite a lot of face here. So it should last quite a long time, but it's important to use a nice soft pure cotton open weave cloth. And you can get this on our website. Well, we've reached the end of our restoration. I'm sorry you couldn't see it from the very beginning, because that was a long while ago. But you've seen the majority of all the restoration that went onto these tables and the final polishing. He says he spots a little bit of wax that needs buffing. Let's call that in the light. They are beautiful tables, as you can see. They are stunning, and they are probably very valuable now, but not as valuable as I first thought. As you sort of go along with these restorations, you tend to sort of get a feel for the wood and see how they were made. And these weren't made particularly well. The wood, however, is lovely. It's a lovely colour. But I think these tables are made up, actually. I don't think these are original. I think these have both been made up at some point in the past out of other bits of furniture, because the quality of workmanship isn't Georgian, really, not of that highest quality. But nonetheless, they're lovely, they're very nice. They have some little quirky features, and as you saw, actually when I was opening, you can't actually leave the lid open because it will just fall back and break the hinges. This is what's happened many times. It needs actually a retaining stay or something there, but I'm not going to put that on there unless the customer wants it. I think they look fantastic, really, compared to how bad they were. Really badly water damaged, and these tops were so severely split. But I'm really happy with them. I hope you enjoyed watching. Please feel free to comment about any of it, really. I'm open to comments, and any professionals out there or wannabe restorers, feel free to pipe up and say something. Take care. Thank you.